The doorway framed him like a photograph he never wanted taken, plates in his hands, wedding ring catching the hallway light, and behind him, through the crack of an open kitchen door, the sound of his own name being spoken in a tone he didn't recognize. Marcus Bell had been married to Renee for 11 years, and in the last 6 months, he'd started keeping a mental list. Not of her faults, exactly, but of moments that suggested she was pulling away from him, the way she rushed off the phone when he entered a room, the folder on her laptop labeled simply "Options," the lawyer's card he found tucked into her jacket pocket like a secret she meant to keep. He had come to Sunday dinner at her mother's house that evening with a decision already forming in his chest, heavy as a stone he'd swallowed. He was going to ask for a divorce. He just hadn't found the words yet, and some cowardly part of him hoped the evening would give him an opening, or maybe an excuse to be angry enough to say it. Instead, carrying a stack of dessert plates toward the kitchen, he stopped cold in the hallway when he heard his wife's voice rise on the other side of the door, sharp with an emotion he couldn't quite place. She was talking to her mother, Gloria, and she didn't know he was standing there, didn't know that in the next 60 seconds, everything he thought he understood about his marriage was about to be rearranged. If you believe in the power of second chances, in love that survives our worst assumptions, and in stories that remind us why Humanity Tales exists, hit that like button right now, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe so you never miss the next story. Now, let's go back to that kitchen door. I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending everything is fine, Mama, Renee had said, and Marcus felt his stomach drop, certain this was the confirmation he'd been dreading. He pressed himself against the wall, plates trembling slightly in his hands, and listened the way a man listens when he already believes he knows the ending of the story. He works himself into the ground for us and I just sit there and watch him disappear a little more every week, Renee continued, and her voice cracked in a way that stopped Marcus's breathing entirely. 6 months ago the doctor told him his blood pressure was through the roof, that if he didn't slow down he was heading toward a heart attack before 50, and instead of resting he took on more hours. He thinks I don't notice, but I see him some nights just sitting in the car in the driveway for 10-15 minutes before he comes inside, like he's trying to find the strength to walk through the door and be strong for us one more time. Marcus's hand found the wall to steady himself. He had not told her he'd been sitting in the driveway. He hadn't told anyone that some evenings the weight of providing, of proving, of being enough, pressed down on him so hard he needed a few private minutes just to breathe before he could put a smile on for his family. I found a lawyer's card in his jacket last month, Renee said, and now Marcus's heart was hammering for an entirely different reason. I looked into a family therapist who specializes in men and burnout, someone who's dealt with husbands who won't admit they're drowning. I was going to surprise him with an appointment, tell him I already paid for the first session so he couldn't say no. I've been so scared to bring it up directly because every time I try to talk to him about slowing down, he gets this look like I'm accusing him of failing us. I don't want a different husband, Mama. I want this one, alive and well and here in 20 years, not working himself into an early grave trying to give us a life we'd trade back for him in a heartbeat. The lawyer's card. Not a divorce attorney. A specialist. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been clenched so tightly for months he'd forgotten it was possible to unclench it. And the folder, Renee went on, her voice thick now, the one labeled options, that's not me planning to leave him, Mama, that's me trying to find a way for him to leave that job without us losing the house. I've been quietly looking at whether I can pick up more freelance design work. When he finally pushed the kitchen door open, Renee turned with a dish towel still in her hand, and for a moment neither of them said anything. Gloria quietly excused herself to check on something in the other room, the kind of graceful exit only a mother who has just witnessed something sacred knows how to make. Marcus crossed the kitchen and did something he hadn't done in longer than he could remember. He simply let his shoulders drop, let his face show the exhaustion he'd been hiding, and told his wife that he had heard everything, every word, and that he was sorry it had taken overhearing her fear to finally see his own. Renee's eyes filled, not with the anger he might have once expected, but with a relief so total it seemed to loosen something in her entire body. She told him she wasn't trying to control him, she was trying to keep him, and that there was a difference she'd been terrified he would never understand. He pulled her into him right there by the stove, the smell of her mother's cooking still in the air, and for the first time in months he let himself be held instead of holding everything together alone. They talked long after the dishes were done that night, really talked, about the doctor's warning he'd been minimizing, about the hours he could actually cut back if he let go of the fear that his worth was measured only in what he provided. He agreed to that first therapy appointment she had already paid for. He agreed to stop treating her concern as criticism. And somewhere in that long overdue conversation, the man who had walked into his mother-in-law's house ready to end his marriage walked out of it instead having finally begun one, the honest kind, the kind built on truth instead of assumptions, on two people choosing each other again with open eyes. If this story moved you even a little, if it made you think about the people quietly worried about you, or the walls we build when we assume the worst instead of asking, please take a moment to comment, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Humanity Tales so we can keep bringing these stories to you. And before you go, we have one special request. In the comments below, tell us the moment in this story that touched you most, or share a time when the truth turned out to be so much kinder than the story you were telling yourself. Your words mean more to this community than you know, and they might be exactly what someone else needs to read today.